South Africa, as we battle the second wave of COVID-19, now under alert level 3, we're joined by Tshifhiwa Tshivhengwa, who is the CEO of the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, on how it will impact the tourism sector. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So let's just start with your thoughts on this. Obviously, a big blow as business was starting to tick up. Some businesses are saying they're not even going to survive up until the 15th of January. Is this the sentiment that you're also expressing in the sector?
No, absolutely. Look, as an industry, we have been closed, for quite some time, and we just recently opened, and we were hoping that during this festive season, we will at least recoup some of the losses that we have gotten. And also to sort of sustain our businesses for the future. So the closure of the beaches and many other aspects that are supporting tourism, including liquor, curfew, does have an impact on tourism, and it will have an impact on the bottom line. So it is tough time for us, and we have seen many people trying to cancel their reservations. Those that were still traveling, I've received many emails of people trying to cancel and come back home. So it is tough time. It is not something that we would wish for the country, but again, as an industry, I can say that it's tough times, and we do hope that things change shortly.
I don't know if you have quantified it for South Africa particularly, but I think some study has said on a global level there's been like a 70% drop in terms of international tourist arrivals. So how bad is it for domestic as well?
Look, for domestic, we've got three types of domestic travel. What we have now is domestic leisure travel, and this is where people are going to visit friends and relatives, and those that are going to vacation, across the country. And the two other types of domestic travel, which is government travel and corporate travel, are virtually non-existent because companies are working, from home. Their employees are not allowed to travel. So that is not existent at the moment. So with the spread of this virus, at the level as it is now, it simply means that companies are not going to send their employees around the country, and also government is not going to send its employees around the country. So it becomes, a future problem, for us, and also for international tourists to come here. They need to be reassured that our numbers are manageable. So what we have now is a situation whereby, as much as, the restrictions that we have now are problematic in the short term, but the fact that the numbers are rising and we haven't contained them is problematic in the future, because no one wants to come to a country that has a high infection rate and a lot more people that are infected. And also, South Africans ourselves, we don't want to travel around when we have high numbers. So we are invested in ensuring that the numbers that we have of COVID positive go down, so that, we can instill confidence in the international market and also domestic market to travel. So it's a catch-22 for us. We're going to lose in the short term, but we also have to look on the long term. So the industry right now is in a tough space, and we do hope to come out of it.
There are those cynics who said that it's certainly a self-correction, as it were. Some were saying that the tourism had grown too big for sustainability in terms of the population. Some were even arguing that it's environmentally sustainable because there are over-touristed locations. Is this an opportunity to self-correct what some of the critics may have been saying, an opportunity to perhaps create some travel bubbles or travel corridors?
Surely, I do think that we need to create travel bubbles with various countries whereby, they can trust us and come to our country. That's something that's going to take a bit of time, because trust is the new currency. Again, they have to trust that we have our situation under control. In terms of whether tourism in South Africa has grown or overgrown, I think that we're barely scratching the surface. If you look at what we receive internationally, we receive less than a percentage of global tourists across the world. So we are not really one of the top countries in terms of, receiving tourists, and as well as domestic travel. If you look at other countries like Spain and, France, those are the top countries in terms of receiving tourists. Now, we still need to do more work because tourism can be the catalyst for economic development and job creation in the country. And we still need to attract more tourists into South Africa. We don't have a problem of mass tourism in South Africa, simply because a lot of people that come here go to various areas that have open spaces and they want to enjoy the nature and they want to enjoy our safaris and many other things that we have to offer, including beaches and many other attractions. So it's important for us that we continue to grow tourism because it has that potential to be one of the top employers in the country, and it can sustain a whole lot more people, especially young people that have just graduated that don't have jobs. Tourism could be the answer.
Now, we mentioned just before, you were watching the fact that government is doing all it can to engage countries that have banned travel from South Africa, given the announcement of a second variant. And of course, the UK itself has a variant. How are we going to build travellers' confidence for our lot? Because as the department has said, it's not a South African problem, it's a global problem.
No, absolutely. Look, we're dealing with a health problem. It happened to impact tourism. And I think what has happened, from the UK point of view and the announcement that came and the ban that came, I think is unfortunate. We're all dealing with this virus. We're following the World Health Organization protocols in terms of how to deal with the virus. And again, there will always be strain of this type of viruses. And we've seen this in the past with many other viruses. So I do think that the announcement to ban South Africans to travel to all this country, it does stigmatize us as South African. And it's as if we're the only country in the world that has this variant or has a variant. Whereas there are many other countries that may not have, seen this variant, and it may exist in their countries. I think that what we have done well as a country is that we've reported that, there is a new variant, and it's mutating, as the Minister of Health have said. And I think we should be applauded for that, instead of hiding it and not saying anything about it. Instead, we're being stigmatized, which is bad for tourism and is bad for tourism economy at large.
And just learning from COVID-19, how do we ourselves build a transformative plan for better travelers' behavior? Because we know that, wittingly or not, the virus has been spread as a result of cross-border traveling. What would we have to look out for? How do we build better?
Look, I think one of the things that tourism does, it builds what we call public diplomacy. And the interconnectedness of the world, comes through travel and tourism. And I think that, this virus would have spread regardless. We are, as human beings, we like to travel around, we move around because it's, what we are. We have been moving since we were here on Earth. So I think that what we ought to do, and this is what we've been appealing to all the travelers, follow the protocols that government have put together and the industry have put together. We've done so as the TPCSA, and all establishments across the value chain are following the protocols that we've put together. Wear your mask, social distance, and make sure that, you sanitize. If you do those basic three things, you should be able to come out all right. But if you don't, then we're going to have these waves that are going to be disturbing, the flow of the economy, until we get a vaccine. So it's important that we all comply for the sake of each other. We are all interconnected. It's not only about tourism, it's about other sectors, including manufacturing, agriculture, and many others that are connected to tourism. So it's important that when we look at this, let's look at it as protecting each other, as well as protecting each other's economic interests. And we'll all be fine if we do the basics that the government have been talking about.
And if we do that, we'll get back to just some of those pictures that we've been showing to you of our local tourism industry. I'm sure many of you feeling nostalgic. I know, certainly, I'm just looking at that Graskop gorge. I'm sure if we do it better quickly, we'll be able to get back to some of those activities. Thank you very much, Tshifhiwa Tshivhengwa. He is the CEO of Tourism Business Council of South Africa, on how we'll be impacted, especially the tourism sector, under alert level 3 now, following the president's announcement yesterday. So later on in this hour, we'll be talking to